Are you a conscious leader or a self-conscious leader? In this edition of Thursday's Thought, you're going to learn what conscious leadership actually means, the difference between conscious leaders and self-conscious leaders, and what you need to do to step into conscious leadership so you can lead your mission and create a bigger impact. Now, if you see yourself as a conscious leader who is determined to do whatever it takes to move the planet forward, I invite you to join me at the Activation Retreat this September. This is an intimate and profoundly transformational 4-day retreat for leaders that will help you embody your mission, deepen your spiritual practice, and activate your voice and your gifts. There are only 12 seats total. Apply today at rubyfremon.com/activation retreat, and you can find that link in the show notes. Now, whether you're new to this podcast or you're a loyal thought leader, please make sure you take a moment to download a few episodes and drop a rating and review on iTunes. Now, it is time to learn the difference between conscious and self-conscious leadership. Hey, thought leaders, and welcome to this edition of Thursday's Thought. And let me start off by saying this episode is most likely going to get a little ranty because I am talking about something that I'm very passionate about right now in this space of leadership, in the space of personal development, in the space of being an expert and being seen and creating visibility around your cause, because this is where we're at as a collective, right? We have more and more people, quote unquote, waking up, stepping into their purpose, becoming leaders. And yet, what I have been noticing, and maybe you've noticed this too, is that there is a real difference in presence with these leaders that we're seeing online. You can literally feel their energy through the screen. And you can tell if someone is really congruent with who they say they are and devoted to their mission, or they're not. And what really, in the words of Peter Griffin, Family Guy, what really grinds my gears is when people are stepping into the role of leadership, but they're stepping into it by being what I call a self-conscious leader. See, we hear about conscious leadership all the time, and I could talk about conscious leadership versus unconscious leadership, but what I really see is conscious leadership versus self-conscious leadership. This is what we're being faced with right now in the online space and in the offline space. Okay, this very much aligns with what we're seeing in politics, in our current world status. And so it's important for you, my beloved listeners, to understand the difference between a conscious leader and a self-conscious leader. Because the more you understand the difference, the more aware you're going to be of how you're showing up. And let me tell you, I'm not here to tell you that I'm perfect and that I am always displaying myself as a conscious leader. For sure not. I'm human. I fuck up. I make mistakes. I fall into, the black abyss of my emotions and my shadows. Like, we all do this. And I think that it's human for us to move between the two, between conscious leadership and self-conscious leadership. And if someone wants to deny that they ever step into self-conscious leadership, I'm fucking calling bullshit. Okay? Because we do. And social media is what makes it really easy for us to do that. It's really easy for us to get wrapped in our own needs versus our cause because of how social media makes it easy for us to position ourselves in a certain way, right? We get to, and I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this on other episodes before, but social media is such a gift because we are in charge of our digital blueprint, right? Which means we are in charge of how we're perceived and how we show up online. We can manipulate the shit out of this. And the downfall of this is we are in charge of our digital blueprint. And so if we start showing up in ways or trying to over manipulate how we're showing up, then that's going to create an impact, right? That's going to create an impact on our audience, on our mission, on our purpose, on what we're here to do. It's going to create an impact. And so in order to really do your purpose good, in order to show up fully for your purpose, for your mission, it's crucial that you show up as a conscious leader. Now, one of the things that I'm so sick of hearing is, that there's woke people and there's people who aren't woke. Like, can we talk about this in a different way, right? Because the way that I look at it is, when you say it like that, first of all, when you say there's woke people and there's people who aren't woke, it's like you're punishing the people who aren't quote unquote woke. When at one point in time, you were one of those people, right? We're all on a journey. And in fact, we're all on the same damn journey. We're all on the same journey. We're just at different points in our journey. So rather than look at people or leaders like they're woke or they're not woke, have some compassion and understand that there are people who are further along in their journey and they've gained the awareness to see themselves and see their truth. And then there are those who have yet to gain that awareness. That's it. Yet to gain, meaning they have the potential to do so. And we don't have to try and punish these people who aren't woke. Instead, show them compassion, because at one point you were there. So with that being said, yes, there are definitely leaders who are more aware, leaders who are unaware. And that's one of the differences between conscious and self-conscious leadership. So what I want to do is I want to share the differences that I see between conscious leadership and self-conscious leadership, and provide some examples for you so that you can start looking at the ways in which you're showing up for your purpose. You can start looking at the ways in which you're showing up for your mission, the ways in which you're showing up for your cause online and offline. And so you can then create opportunities to shift what needs to be shifted so you can fall into conscious leadership. Okay. So conscious leadership is for the cause, whereas self-conscious leadership is for the ego. Okay. So when you're a conscious leader, you're committed to your purpose, to your cause, to your mission, no matter what, which means you're okay with potentially hurting your ego for the cause, right? You're not going to shy away from any opportunity that could potentially hurt your ego for the cause, because you're in it for the cause, right? You'll risk saying polarizing statements that are aligned with your cause, knowing that it may turn some people away. Whereas if you are a self-conscious leader, if there are things that you believe in, strongly believe in, for example, we are going through this wave with abortions right now, with the laws that are being passed in the United States. And I know that there are female leaders out there who have an opinion on this, but are too fucking afraid to share their opinion because they fear losing followers. And there's so many other examples of this that we could talk about. That's just the first one that came to mind. Whereas, for example, me, I will fucking voice it. And sure, I actually did get a lot of hate on my Instagram. I definitely lost 100 or so followers in my posts about the anti-abortion laws. But for me, what was more important is the cause. And so for you as a conscious leader, you put your cause first. You shove your ego aside and put the cause first. Another difference is conscious leadership is of integrity, and self-conscious leadership lacks integrity. So this is like you being the same person that you are offline as online. You're someone who upholds your values, like you know what you value and you uphold them in everything that you do. You're a person of your word. You practice. You don't just preach what you say. You're not just on a fucking megaphone talking down to your followers or your audience. You are practicing it. You are being it. You are of integrity. And this is one of the ones that really I actually find it deeply upsetting when I encounter self-conscious leaders online because of the integrity piece. I mean, integrity is my number one value, which is the main reason why this really grinds my gears. But when I see people online preaching, but clearly not practicing or embodying, or I meet them in person and they're like this totally different person. And I can't tell you how many times this has happened where they show up in self-conscious ways where they're all about let me just take the perfect photo to make it look like this is who I am and this is what I do, but this isn't actually who I am. That is not leadership, people. That is self-conscious leadership. Integrity is so important for leaders to embody. You have to be a person of your word. You have to lead by doing, right? You have to uphold your values. That's what makes a conscious leader. Another difference is conscious leadership is about being genuine to yourself and to others. And self-conscious leadership is when you're dishonest with yourself and when you're misleading others. And this is a very unconscious thing. So I'm not saying that, I mean, yes, there's definitely leaders who are consciously dishonest with other people, right? But usually how we see this being embodied is you're unconscious that this is happening. You're unconscious that you are actually being dishonest with yourself. You want to think of yourself in a certain way, and so you bypass all your shadows, or you disregard all these parts of you that need to be faced in order to try and be perceived in a certain way, which then leads you to mislead other people, your following, your audience, your clients, right? That is self-conscious leadership. Conscious leadership, you got to be brave enough to face your truth, the shadows and the light. You have to be humble enough to be a committed student, to know that you're not someone who knows everything. That's what it means to be genuine to yourself and to others. That's what it means to be a conscious leader. Now, the other difference is that conscious leadership values truth above all else, okay? And self-conscious leadership values truth only when it's beneficial to self. So what does this look like in action? Well, this is like sharing your truth no matter what. No matter your fear of judgment, no matter your fear of being perceived a certain way, no matter your fear of upsetting your family or your loved ones. It's about sharing your truth no matter what, even if that if that means potentially losing your followers, your subscribers, the people around you, because you value truth above all else. It's not just about valuing truth when it's beneficial to you. It's not just about valuing truth when it's going to bring you more followers or when it's going to get you those speaking gigs. It's about valuing truth all the fucking time, above all else. Another difference is that conscious leadership is about being committed to showing up as the fullest expression of your purpose, your mission, and who you are. Whereas self-conscious leadership is about being committed to showing up in ways that provide you with what you want. Okay, so that means you can manipulate how you're being seen. You can wear masks and filters to show up in a way that you feel will appease the masses. Whereas conscious leadership is you always diving deeper into your truth, uncovering new layers of yourself. It's being courageous enough to speak and express your truth, right? Not only when it gets you what you want, but all the time. Another difference is that conscious leaders are devoted to their inner growth, and self-conscious leaders are obsessed with external results. Okay. What you need to understand is that in order to help the conscious collective evolve, if you're here to do the planet good, if you're here to move the planet in a positive direction, which if you're listening to this, I'm sure that's part of your greater purpose, you have to be devoted to your own mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical evolution. right? If you're not devoted to your inner growth, if you're not devoted to showing up at your best, if you're not devoted to your own evolution, then how are you going to help this world, this planet, and its people evolve if you're not devoted to that evolution within yourself? You can't. You can't. It doesn't happen, which is why conscious leaders are devoted to their inner growth, okay? Even more so than the external growth, because they know that the inner growth is going to give them the external results that they seek. Now, the final difference is that conscious leaders are focused on being, whereas self-conscious leaders are focused on doing. So this is about being your message. This is about embodying your message and your purpose and feeling like you have nothing to prove. It's the difference between being a lighthouse and being a person holding a flashlight telling everyone to follow me, right? It's the difference, because you're standing there embodying everything that you're about. You are the epitome of your message. You are the expression of your purpose. You're being it. You're not just doing all the things to make people see you in a different light. You're actually being it. You're actually embodying it. So you got to ask yourself, like, am I just too busy trying to do all the things? Or am I actually being my message? Am I actually being my mission? This is a really powerful question to ask yourself. So let this episode raise your awareness around how you're showing up as a leader. Are you showing up as a conscious leader, or are you showing up as a self-conscious leader? And it's okay if you're showing up as a self-conscious leader. Like I said, we all do it. And sometimes we yo-yo between the two. And that's okay, as long as you're aware. That's what this whole journey of life is about. It's about awareness. It's about having the awareness to understand when you're showing up as a conscious leader and when you're showing up as a self-conscious leader. Because when you're aware of the times that you're showing up as a self-conscious leader, you then gain the power to create a shift in your behavior, in the way that you're showing up, so you can step into conscious leadership. And then also do an audit of the people who inspire you, the people you follow, the leaders who you look at for inspiration. Are they truly conscious leaders? Or are they self-conscious leaders, leaders who are showing up in a way to appease the masses, leaders who are showing up in a way to really fulfill their ego, leaders who are letting their fears rule, leaders who aren't really being honest with themselves and are actually misleading you? Do an audit and choose to follow and surround yourself with conscious leaders, because the more conscious leaders you bring into your orbit, the more role models you have for you to then step into this as well. Because as the world stands today, we do not need self-conscious leaders. What we need are conscious leaders, leaders who are devoted to the cause, leaders who are genuine, leaders who value truth above all else, leaders who are devoted to their inner growth. We need these leaders, because these are the leaders who are actually going to help the conscious collective evolve. And so if that is you, if you are committed, if you know that you're called to help move humanity forward, that starts with you stepping into conscious leadership. So if you have to re-listen to this episode, do so. And have the courage to look at yourself, to look at the way in which you're showing up online and offline, to look at the ways in which you're showing up for your purpose, for your audience, for your clients, for your cause. And then create the necessary shifts for you to step into conscious leadership, because that is what the world needs. If you truly are someone who sees yourself as a conscious leader, and you're committed, like I mean committed, to showing up as a conscious leader, to doing the work necessary to be the conscious leader that you know you're here to be, then I invite you to join me at the Activation Retreat this September. This is an intimate and profoundly transformational 4-day retreat for leaders like you that will help you embody your mission, deepen your spiritual practice, and activate your voice and your gifts. And there are only 12 seats total. So if that calls to you, if you want to work with me and 11 other incredible leaders in an intimate and transformational environment for 4 days in the forest, apply today at rubyfremon.com/activation-retreat. And the link will also be in the show notes. You could also just head to my website, rubyfremon.com, and you can apply from the first page. Just look for the top tab that says Activation Retreat. Thank you so much for joining me for another edition of Thursday's Thought on today's Thought Leader, where I'm challenging you to rise up, speak up, and create a movement. If you dig this episode, please share it with a friend, and make sure you download a few other episodes and drop a rating and review on iTunes. If you have any questions about this episode or you have any insights that you want to share, please reach out to me on social media at I am Ruby. And then check back on Monday for a brand new episode of Today's Thought Leader.